Music Business, What Is This? Is a podcast that focuses on the ever-changing music industry and presents issues and concerns that the average and above average musician has or will encounter.
Hey y'all, what's going on? I'm Jeremiah Hunt.
And I'm Richard Johnson.
And this is Music Business.
What is this? All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about what is a booking agent and what are they supposed to do?
Now, booking agent, the Google term, the Google definition would be a booking agent schedules appearances, lectures, or performances for musicians, speakers, or other public figures. Their job duties are to negotiate and review contracts for performers, arrange travel, and confirm appearances. They communicate with promoters, venues, and other organizations that book talent.
Ooh, talent. That's the word that sticks out to me. Books talent. That's real suggestive nowadays, because talent is relative.
Definitely is.
You know, some people say, you're very talented at the piano. And I don't, when I hear that, I understand what they're trying to say. But it, it kind of hits me in a funny place. You're talented,
When people use the word talented, for me, it's, I've heard someone say that it is intellectually racist.
Intellectually, that's a good one. I've never heard that. I gotta think about that. Yeah, it's totally biased. Because I love what I do. I'm a piano player. He's a bass player, great bass player, and we work at this craft.
Yeah.
So talent. Sometimes when people say that means you didn't have to work at this. You never hear somebody say, "Man, my plumber was talented."
Right.
Right. You just don't hear that. You just don't hear it. Why wouldn't you say it? Well, they're not. They learned that craft. They studied it.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, well, what do you think about what I do?
Absolutely.
You're gifted.
We had to go through, 12 or so years, figuring out how to understand music or whatever aspect of music that we do. And we picked it up and we trained it.
Our instrument is a tool, just like a plumber has tools. We have tools, and you got to figure out how to use it. And some people are better than that, right? But our topic is about booking agents, right? So, booking agent. A lot of people want a booking agent because they want gigs.
Exactly.
When you got gigs, people or musicians think money. It's a very interesting train of thought. Booking agent, gig, money.
Yeah.
That's really what a lot of musicians think.
But most of the times you don't have to worry about communicating with the actual venue or whatever it's going to be. You can just have that middleman to sort of settle everything.
Right. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's bad. The good thing is if you got a great booking agent, let's go.
Right.
They're on their job. They've got the connections. It's pretty easy. If you've got a bad booking agent, you may end up with less money. And a lot of people don't even think about that. They think, oh, I've got a booking agent. But when people ask me, do I need a booking agent? My first thing I think is, do you have gigs now? A lot of people think, okay, or musicians, oh, I need to get a booking agent to get gigs. No, you don't. You can get gigs on your own. Right? Just like you want to play that instrument, you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to get a gig? And there's so many different ways to get a gig.
Right.
I mean, that would be like 10 podcasts itself, how to get a gig. We should do one about how to get a gig. But booking agents, they help facilitate that for the musician.
Yeah.
Right? We talked about what a musician is, and we talked about a manager. But the booking agent helps those two help the artist, and that's really important. Now what's in a good booking agent? What makes a great booking agent?
I think the fact that they just have the reputation and they have the relationships with the venues. We talked about managers last time, and I feel like a lot of managers act as booking agents,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing that they don't have is the reputation or the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
with the venue or with the person, whatever.
Right
gig
now,
they're trying
that's
to
where things get a little blurry. A manager is different than a booking agent,
do. Mm-hmm.
right? Sometimes they take that responsibility,
Right.
but you'll find out the biggest artists, they have a manager and they have a booking agent. There's a very clear line
Yeah.
because they're really big responsibilities. If you have someone doing both, it may help you get ahead, but there's a certain point where it's an incredible amount of work.
Yes.
I've had the opportunity to help artists get gigs over the years, having run 4 clubs, and that's a different responsibility. But sometimes I've had to do some managing. Sometimes I've had to book some gigs.
Yeah.
That was all these roles we've been discussing. I've done at different venues around the world, and it's very interesting because the definition sometimes they overlap, but it's very difficult for outside sources to understand. A lot of times they're different. For the musician, they just want gigs. At the end of the day, leave me alone. Let me practice. Let me go do the gig. Okay, I get it because I'm a musician. I totally get that. But at the same time, I want to make sure I'm maximizing the amount of money that we are all getting, not just me, right? A lot of people think, oh, I need to get mine. Yes, I understand that. But with that mentality, you're only going to have a manager and a booking agent for so long.
Right.
Because they're going to see really quick, you're only worried about yours.
Right.
And that's going to create this problem where they have to say, well, I need to get mine.
Right.
Right. So in general, what types of percentages have you seen booking agents get?
I think generally the booking agent would get 10%.
10%?
That's what I've seen in my experience of being in bands with booking agents.
Okay. I've seen 10, I've seen 15. It kind of depends on who's on the payroll.
Right.
Right. Some artists say, I don't need a manager. I can manage myself, but I need a booking agent. Okay. In that situation, the percentage may be 10 or 15%. Someone who has both, it may be 10 for the manager, 10%, and 10% for the booking agent, because ultimately that's 20% out of your pocket.
Yep.
Right. So just to be clear, if you're making $1,000 on a gig, right, and it's booked by the booking agent, 10%, that's $100. And you got a manager, that's another $100. So now you're left with $800, right? Yep. $800. If you've got 4 people in the band and you're a fair band leader, that's the key word. You're a fair band leader, whatever that means, because everybody's definition of fair is different.
Right. Yeah.
I'll say if it's an equally divisible split, everyone should get $200. Right.
Now, what is the protocol on taking a leader fee in your position?
Ooh,
because I hear a lot of musicians.
Okay. That is actually a topic of a whole nother episode. Right. So I want to leave that question for those listeners.
Okay.
Because we're going to talk about that, the leader fee.
All right.
Because,
so stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. Right. But the booking agent. Let's get back to those fees. So everybody in the group, 4 people, if it's 4 people, would get $200, right? If it's 8 people in the group, that's $100. Now you got to start thinking about, okay, how do we get to the gig? Did I drive? Was there gas? Was there tolls? Did we have to buy uniforms or clothes? Right? Did we have to pay for parking at the gig? Right? All these things start adding up.
Yeah.
So that if it's 8 people in the band, $100 a person, that $800 gets cut down to 50% pretty quickly,
Yeah.
right? And then you start thinking, wow, how far away was the gig? Oh, it was an hour. So you got to drive an hour back. All these things starting adding up. That's time. How long was the gig? Oh, we had to do 2 shows, 75-minute sets. Okay. That's 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So now you're talking about 4.5 hours with the driving, the show, and then you've got the break intermission, 30 minutes. That's 5 hours, right? Did you do a sound check? Do a sound check. You got to be there early for that. Now we're probably looking at about 6.5 hours. $50, 6.5 hours. Now, let's go back. Think about the booking agent. Booking agent wants their percentage. No problem with that. But you have to make sure that the gig is worth having a booking agent
Right.
and a manager if needed, because now you have to pay these people. If you have 8 people, okay. If it's 4 people, okay, you make a little bit more. But ultimately, you're still spending 6-7 hours of time. And your average person who's not in the music industry, they think per hour. Musicians think per gig. And this is where things get really tricky. I was out in New York with my best friend one time. And I was telling him about fees and what musicians get. And he said, wouldn't do it. Looked at me, didn't even blink. Wouldn't do it. And I was like, yeah, but you got to make a living. He said, so-and-so spent 8 hours. They made $300. Break that down per hour. I said, okay. 4 hours, $150. 2 hours, $75. Okay, 1 hour, $37.50. That's not bad. But then I started adding up all the costs.
All right.
And I said, wait a minute. No wonder he said, so you really have to think about, what does this gig pay?
Right.
What are you taking home? What are the expenses? Oh, we didn't even talk about food. Right?
Exactly.
Did the gig have food?
Wow.
Right? Do you got to buy your own food?
Yeah.
I mean, we've all had gigs where they were like, sorry, there's no food.
There's no buyout.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. You know, and for me, I love music, but I like eating too.
Yep.
Right? So
And
if
all musicians do.
they all right, we all like to eat, right? So if the food is right, that's some serious leverage.
Yeah.
Right? So there's these things you have to consider when you start talking about booking agents or anyone who's on the payroll once again.
Yeah.
Because ultimately that eats into your expense,
Yes.
especially being the leader. People don't really go after your booking agent or your manager. You may, but your band members, they're coming after you. Yeah. Right? Because you're the leader. You're the one that people see.
Yeah.
You know, so you really have to think about, you know, what is needed? Why is it needed? Is this something I could really do myself?
Right.
You know, so what are you managing? How many gigs are there to be booked? You know, in general, for me, I've been booking for myself and other people for years. But I found most booking agents, they would like to see an artist have a certain amount of gigs already.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what it is.
They want to know that you can pull your own, your own weight, have your own crowd, and have your own media, and just have your own thing going.
Yeah,
for you.
they're not interested in creating you. That's what you have to remember. Most people who want a booking agent, they've got a look. They've got a sound. People are interested. They're coming to them with lots of fans.
Right.
Right? And then they can take that and exponentially increase that. That's what they're looking to do. Why? Because that means their paycheck exponentially gets increased as well. Right?
Exactly.
If you go to a booking agent with 10 fans, that's like a joke.
Right.
You go to a booking agent with 10,000 fans and you can show them that on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music, whatever it is, then the wheels start turning.
Yeah.
And then they say, they did this themselves. And I've got 30,000 contacts. Right? The numbers start going up. Right? So when you start thinking about once again, who's on the payroll? And the reason I keep saying payroll, because it ultimately adds up to your expense. Whether you recognize it up front or on the back end, it does somewhere sooner or later.
Yeah.
Right? So that role of the booking agent, it is crucial, but that usually comes at a certain time.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, everybody doesn't necessarily need it, but when you need it, you want them to be right.
Yeah.
You know, they've got to have experience. They've got to have contacts. You know, and I look at the booking agent as most people, you'll never know who they are.
Right.
In reality, I don't want a booking agent who's flashy. I don't want them walking around, because that shows me several things. First of all, where they're putting their money. I mean, which ultimately I don't care, but it does show where they're putting their money.
Right.
Second of all, they're looking for attention, which means maybe they're in the wrong business. Right? And the third thing is, most booking agents are back watching to see how they can make things better, how they can book more gigs.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to really suss those things out. That means doing some homework.
Yeah.
You got to do some homework. And getting on someone's roster who has a lot of artists, once again, like the manager, isn't always the best thing. I think it's a little bit different than a manager.
Yeah.
A booking agent can handle more people. Not that a manager can't handle more people, but because you're really paying for a list of contacts. Right? Someone can say, hey, I've got the new young so-and-so.
Right.
They're going to be it. They've got 30,000 followers. We're guaranteed that 800 people are going to show up. Then the club owner gets interested.
Right.
Right? Now the booking agent's done their job.
And going back to the booking agent / manager topic, so I've seen people have a manager to start out with, and then that manager, help to get them a booking agent, and the booking agent has all the contacts and they have all the experience, so the band leader just gets rid of the manager.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. Everybody doesn't need a manager.
Right.
Fortunately, early in my career, I was very organized. I had business plans the way I was raised. So I didn't need a manager immediately. But a booking agent, it got to a point where I was booking so many gigs for myself and friends. It was just a time issue.
Yeah.
I had to say, look, I need to practice. Right? So the manager for me at that point, years ago, wasn't really necessary. But I could still work. That booking agent allowed me to be able to focus on my instrument. Right? And that's something that you really need to seriously think about. You still got to practice. You still have your craft. And that's why we want these people. But at the same time, it's a fine line between, okay, I want them, but I have to have something to present to them so that they can make it grow. All right. Well, that looks like we're about at that time. It's been a pleasure as always. Thanks for hanging out with us during this time. My name is Richard Johnson.
I'm Jeremiah Hunt.
And we're here. This is Music Business.
What is this?
We'll see you guys later. Don't be a hater.